Hello there, I am Lynn Charles Foster. I've been an art teacher for at least 30 years of all levels, and also I've painted and done drawings and things for 50 years and shown in all kinds of shows. If you want to find me, look up lyncharlesfoster.com or Lynn Charles Foster on Google and you'll find me. Anyway, that's my advertisement. I'm going to make a series of drawing lessons that are for my grandchildren. That's the purpose of them. And if you happen to learn something from it, that's great. If you know more than I do about it, that's fine. I wish you happy painting, so enjoy. Okay, first thing I want to do is my first lesson is we're going to do learning to see. And that sounds kind of weird. Why would you learn to see? Everybody does it all the time. But in art, you need to actually learn to see objects. And what we often do is rely on what we have stored in our memory. So if I say, okay, I want you to draw your hand. Well, you'll do it like this, and some of you will get the correct number of fingers, some won't. And you just draw a hand. That's a thing that everybody does. But that's not a realistic hand. That's just a cartoon hand. And it's one that you've stored in your memory, and you just kind of spit it out because that's a symbol for a hand. Another thing is you can write your name. I have you go ahead and just write out your name. Write it in cursive if you know how. Write your name out like that. Okay, everybody can do that. You've got that information stored in your head. You also can do it without looking. And it's harder to get. Not bad without looking. It's totally blind drawing. And so it shows you that when you have the information up in your head, once it's stored there, you can spit it back out. But the problem is when you're a beginning artist is you don't have that information stored. You haven't been drawing things for years. And so you're kind of working with this kind of a blank tablet. There's nothing up in your brain to work with. So you have nothing to spit out. So you have to learn some way of getting information into your brain. Now, the thing that this storage in your brain is called visual memory. I didn't make this up. It's actually a term. Okay, visual memory. Okay, that's what it when you store things in your head. You need to learn though how to trace things, tracing objects. And that tracing is the easiest way of putting information into your brain that you can store. And tracing is also a very good way of getting an object that you're looking at, actually getting it on a piece of paper. Okay, so the process is very simple. You would start with your object. Let's say you're doing the hand again. Okay, here's a symbol for a hand. And you're looking at your hand, and it goes to your eye. Okay, and then it goes from there out your arm, like this, and that comes back out onto your sheet of paper through a flow, okay? And this flow is really important to keep because once you break the flow, if you don't have the flow, then guess what? You go up into your memory and there's nothing stored up there. And so you end up with a symbol. So it's real important to keep that flow going from what you're tracing, okay? Tracing your object, goes to your eye, you're seeing it, and then it comes out your hand automatically. And you don't have to really work at it very hard because you can see how you're able to write your name from your memory. So you have that flow. The flow is already there. And when you're writing your name from your memory, the only thing you're doing is you're working from your brain storage and it's coming out in your hand. But that flow is already there, so you don't have to build it. It's just a talent that we have, actually more than talent, it's just an ability that we have. Okay, now, objects themselves, you have to be able to describe objects, and what I do is I look for outlines of objects. Okay, so if you have a hand, you could go ahead and get an outline of the hand. And the simple way to do that was to trace like this around, like that, around your hand. Okay, so there's an outline of your hand. It's kind of a crummy looking hand. That would make a good hand turkey, but it's not enough. So you need more than just an outline. And so you need what's called a contour. And contour is when you are going across the surface. So here's the outline, and across the surfaces, that's contour. And farmers do what's called contour plowing. That's where they plow across the field to prevent the water from washing their fields out. They actually go with the hillside. Okay, so contour. And everybody kind of has an idea what contour are. Contour art is also when you see a shell. A lot of times the shell has lines around it and it makes it look like a contour. Or you can see it kind of describes itself with its extra lines. Okay, now what you do is you need to figure out how to get this object onto your paper. Okay, and what I do is I use what's called blind contour line. And blind contour is when you actually are staring at the outline of your object, the contour of your subject. You really stare at it and you're letting this flow right through out into your hand and right onto your paper without breaking that connection. And if you look down at your paper, then you're breaking that connection. Anytime you look down at your paper, you're using the information that you have stored in your head, which in my case, sometimes is not very much. Okay, so let's take a look at it. Let's try this here. I'm gonna set my hand out here with my thumb like this. I'm gonna put my finger on here and I'm gonna trace this. Kind of feel my way around here. And it's okay to pick up your pen and put it back down on the line and then start tracing, but don't watch yourself draw. That's the trick. Then you get what's called semi-blind. But you can see it starting to be a hand. You can see there's a thumb here. It's actually kind of a traced object. You can do it with other objects too. You can take like this bottle here, and I can start with it. I start with a very difficult part, complicated part, which is this cap thing. And you keep going. Try to describe the object as best you can. It will tend to be misaligned because of not being able to see where you are. You can't look down, so you just kind of guess at where you are. You just get a feeling of the outside outline of it, go across the surface of it, and you'll end up with something that is a lot more primitive. Probably needs one more there, but it is a copy of the object that you're making, and it's a blind contour line. Okay, and then when you're finished with blind contour, try different kinds of objects. A cup, you can do fruit, vegetables. In the fall, you get lots of different kinds of gourds and things. They make really great drawings that you can do. And try different kinds of blind contour. And I suggest you take and go ahead and make a page of them, and till you get the idea of having yourself look at the object, goes to your eye, comes out your hand. You want that flow. If you can build that flow, that's when you're going to be successful. And artists, the ones that are professional artists, they just automatically transfer that information, and it comes with a lot of practice. It's not something that you just are born with. You really need to be able to develop it. Okay, so that's blind contour, learning to see, and outlines, contours, blind contours, and trying to get the visual flow the visual memory, fill it up with something, and hopefully you'll have something worth looking at in the future. Okay, so that's my lesson for this time. I hope it helps you. I'll see you again in another video.